You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how creepy nursery rhymes result in traumatized queer people. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, A.K. Stormageddon.
Well, it's time to fumble around in the deep roads. The squad follows Bronca's trail deeper and deeper underground and through waves of darkspawn to discover some unsettling truths about Orzammar's current paragon and the Anvil of the Void. It's PvP, Paragon versus Paragon, in a fight over the Anvil. Do we side with Bronca and make golems for our war? Or do we side with Caridin himself and put an end to the Anvil forever? No matter what we choose, our warden must then return to the assembly with a token from our chosen paragon and choose the new ruler of Orzammar. With that settled, we can finally return to camp and take a nap. It's a lot of choices that need to be made in this section.
It is. And off the bat, of course, we don't have any check-ins because we're still fumbling around Orzammar. And so we haven't had time to take a break. I do want to say at the top, before we get into the deep roads, when you were talking about last episode that it was survival horror, like I agreed with you. But in my head, I'm like, it's not that bad. I don't remember it being that survival horror-y. And while I wasn't scared by it, I think from streaming Dead Space 1 and 2 on my Twitch channel, I've kind of gotten a thicker skin for some of the scary stuff. It is definitely survival horror. It's definitely creepy as hell. It didn't scare me per se. It didn't scare me per se, but it definitely is creepy. There are specific moments I'll call out as we get to them that were the creepiest bits.
Yeah.
But it definitely is a different tone from the rest of the game, which is really interesting.
Right.
And a lot of that, and a lot of it is music, presentation, and like dialogue, like the. It's really interesting because, right, like the
audio
only survival
engineering,
like the survival, like I mentioned in the last episode, the most survival horror that Mass Effect 1 ever gets is the moon mission. And then Mass Effect 3 and 2 have moments also like early on with the collectors and then early on with the Reapers, like especially when you go to the Asari homeworld, like there's definitely moments of it, but it's rarely entire missions. The whole thing from start to finish is very much in that vein. And I think it's very interesting. And thinking about it, I can't think of other moments like that in the other Dragon Age games either, which is interesting.
I'm sure if you put a water gun to my head, I would be able to think of some. They're escaping me at the moment. It is like a rich 70 degrees here in Northern Ireland, which is summer, which means that my body is like, no thought, head empty, just cotton candy up here. Cotton candy and vibes. But that being said, I do want to say that the Leviathan DLC is the closest to Paragon of her kind in terms of vibes.
Yeah.
Because everything is spooky. It's spooky.
Yeah. It is. But it was interesting because, again, like in my head, I just really didn't remember it that way, but replaying it definitely was. And it's funny, too, because, like, listeners of this show and other shows that I do know that I am a coward. Like capital C coward. And so like playing scary games aren't always for me, but I've started to dabble in scary games and movies more over the years. And like I haven't finished it yet. I have to finish before the sequel comes out this October, but I bought the Alan Wake remastered version on PS5 and started playing it. I was like, oh, this isn't that scary. Meanwhile, Sarah in the other room is like, turn it down. It's too scary. I can't listen to it. And I'm like, oh. And so like I wonder if it's a little bit more I have a thicker skin for it, or like also everything is less scary when you know it's coming, right? Like I think this is still creepy for me because it had been so long since I played it. But like if you've replayed a game or remember it well, the spooky stuff or jump scares don't think really will bother you as much. Also relevant sort of to this discussion, I saw Grey House on Broadway last week, which is a new like kind of horror themed play on Broadway, and it was very good. The jump scares were few and far between, but there were a few, but it was mostly just kind of spooky and eerie, and I highly recommend it since I know there are at least a few theater nerds who listen.
You're a theater nerd.
Not really. I'm getting there. But anyway, so the deep roads. So as we talked about last episode, we split this into two parts. It's really kind of one really long mission, but it was taking a while. And it's funny too, because this back half I felt was a little shorter, but not by much. It would have definitely been too much to cover in one episode, but to be upfront, I skipped the Idukan Tige completely. Like, I didn't even go because I could just go directly to Carradin's Cross, and I was like, well, why would I go anywhere else? And so I completely
the
skipped it.
reason why I went to the Idukan Tige was because it was there, and I was like, why is that there? Do I have a mission there? I don't remember. So I went, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll find something. The only thing I found was a bag of bloody limbs, and that was it. I was really pissed off that I, like, traveled this entire thing only to discover a bag of bloody limbs and not even, like, good loot. Yeah. I was just very annoyed and very distressed the entire time. Just like, how dare you?
Yeah, I believe the Idukan Tige is where I did the mission last episode to, like, find the noble who I had to talk to about them not getting their land and getting swindled. But either way, I was like, well, I know that Ogdrin said I need to go to Carradin's Cross, so I'm just going to go straight there. And so I did.
That's valid.
And when we get to Carradin's Cross, I mean, it's what we kind of expect from the little bit of the experience of the deep roads that we've had already, or at least I for sure had already, as I am a dwarf, you know, fighting a lot of enemies. There's not a ton of narrative in Carradin's Cross. It's mostly just combat and discovery as we make our way through the very maze-like deep roads, but the spooky vibes start here, and it's all music and presentation, right? It's winding narrow halls. It's kind of like the deep stalkers are creepy looking creatures, and then of course, why am I blanking on what the hell the other enemies are called?
Darkspawn.
The Darkspawn, thank you. I don't know why that left my brain, but hey, it's also very warm in New York, so maybe my head empty, only cotton candy as well. But we find a lot of Darkspawn here too, and some. Oh, I meant to give this warning at the top. If you're arachnophobic, if you do not like even listening to people talk about spiders, this whole episode is probably persona non grata, at least for the next 20 minutes as we talk about the early stuff. So you can feel free to nope out. I have friends who suffer from this and who ask about games that have spiders in it. So I just wanted to give that as a heads up.
I have things to say about spiders.
Okay, please do.
I hate giant spiders in fantasy. Tolkien didn't start it, but he sure as hell popularized it.
That's true.
Fuck you, Tolkien. Fuck you. I know that we have an intersection with LOTR fans. I respect you. I respect you so deeply. I do not respect your source material. And I never will. I'm just, why? Why do there have to be giant spiders in everything? And everything that has to do with fantasy games. Skyrim, every Dragon Age game. I'm so angry about it. It just makes me so mad.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's just confusing because I summon a spider, and so half the time I'm trying to click on my own spider to try and kill it in these missions, which is
Morgan can transform into a spider.
Yeah,
which is fun. Too.
Oh,
he never does.
We didn't talk about who we brought. I brought Win because I will always have Win. We can just assume for the rest of the game. I brought Ogdrin and I brought Zevran.
I brought Leliana, Morgan, and Ogdrin because I had to.
Yeah, I mean that too. I will say Ogdrin, even like not having as much gear as everyone else, is a decent tank.
Okay,
like,
I thought you were gonna say something nice about him. I was gonna be like, we need to break up.
No.
I will divorce you.
We're not married.
We're married in this show.
Okay, whatever.
You are my work spouse.
Yeah. But no, Ogdrin, I mean, I like Stephen Bloom's performance as him. Like, I do like I don't like him as a character. I like the existence of the character. I think he's interesting, if not somewhat incredibly problematic. But he does make for a decent tank as a berserker, which I forget is that most of the warriors in Dragon Age are designed to be able to take hits, even if they're not sword and shield, which is nice because it allows you to diversify the characters you bring, although Alistair is my preference of the tanks. And so he did a pretty good job. He died a few times. There was one combat where like literally everyone had died except my spider, me, and Win, and I was just panicked trying to kill everything, and we survived. My game crashed once when I immediately entered the deep roads, tried to take a screenshot, crashed. the only thing I think of worth mentioning in Carradin's Cross is because this is where we find Ruck, or is that in the Orton Tide?
No, that's in Orton Tide.
Okay, then yeah, this is just all combat and killing Dark
Yeah,
Spawn.
like my notes are very limited. The only thing that I have noted is like Branka had maps of the ancient empire. She's been in the deep roads for 2 years. We fight some hired goons, some darkspawn, some deep stalkers, and I collected some bloody body parts.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yep. I got some gear for my party. There was a lot of Zevran and Ogren banter, mostly about smelly feet and hating elves and why elves tolerate the humans. And like at first I wanted to go, hey, I'm right here. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I'm a dwarf.
You are a dwarf.
I am. But the banter was kind of fun between the two of them, mostly because they just get on each other's nerves. It felt very Legolas and Gimli, if we're talking Lord of the Rings, actually, like early relationship, like just kind of going at each other.
Leliana and Ogren. I felt bad for my girl. I did. Because Ogren had the audacity to be like, so, what do you wear as a cloistered sister? And Leliana, sweet and innocent, pure girl, is just like robes and vestments, and sometimes there's ceremonial stuff. And he's like, just tell me if you're naked under there. And I'm like, bruh, this is a femme squad, and you're only here because they made me. I would not have you here. And you're only here because the game forced me to take you. Like, you're on thin ice. Thin fucking ice, my man. Oh, I don't know if the microphone picked up that click in my jaw. Ooh.
I don't think so.
That was a tasty one that I felt.
I'm getting old.
Yeah. Well, I have too much jaw. That's what the problem is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. TMJ, too much jaw. That's what that stands
right,
for.
That's, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't like him. He's not likable.
I mean, he's not supposed to be.
Like, I don't think he's a good character. I don't think he brings anything interesting to the party.
Okay. I mean, I think it's too soon for me to agree with that, because my memory of him in previous playthroughs is limited, as I didn't really use him much because I stuck with Alistair. Yeah. So I will reserve my judgment, but he is definitely designed to be the obnoxious, rude, poor-mannered.
If you asked Ogren who he thought he was from Mass Effect, if you were like, hey, Ogren, which Mass Effect character do you vibe the most with? He would say Rex, and he would be wrong.
Yeah.
Like, the answer is a shittier Zaid.
Wow, if you make Zaid look good, that's a problem.
Yeah. Like, Ogren thinks he's Rex, but he is not. He is Zaid with a substance abuse problem.
Anyway, there's a moment later where I do genuinely feel a little bad for him, but we'll get to that. Anyway, we make our way through Carradin's Cross, and it takes us to the Orton Tide, which is what's supposed to lead us to get us on our way to the Anvil of the Void.
So I like how when you enter Orton Tide, you just start fighting ghosts like it's normal.
Yeah, nobody says literally anything.
Like, nobody's like, what the fuck? Nobody says shit about Dick. And, like, I kind of wish Ogren would be like, oh, I heard a legend about this. Like,
right, yeah.
Just say something to acknowledge the weirdness of fighting some ghosts.
Yeah. It's bizarre. And, like, for Wynn to not say anything makes sense, right? Wynn deals with the supernatural a lot, so I feel like, and spirits probably, so maybe they wouldn't say anything, but, like, Zevran, if anyone, should have said something, because he has a comment about everything, but yeah, nobody even pays any attention to the ghosts that we are fighting. Nobody seems to care.
Did you put body parts on an altar?
I did not.
I did.
What happened?
A demon got summoned.
Oh, did you kill it?
And he was like, congratulations, you solved my bloody body part puzzle.
It's the worst Zelda puzzle ever.
Congrats. I will give you money if you want to leave me alone.
Amazing. My kind of demon.
Go away.
Mood, honestly.
Get away
fella.
from me. And like I'm a mage who like has dealt with demons, so I feel like I was well within my rights to be like, no, fuck you, and killed him.
Okay. Did you still get the money?
No, but I got a cool sword.
Okay. I'm sure Alistair will appreciate that later.
Fuck Alistair, I'm an arcane warrior. It's
Oh,
my
that's
sword.
right. It's your sword.
He has his own sword. I deserve a sword.
I did not summon a demon to an altar, but
Well,
good to know
because you
that.
didn't go to the Aeducan Tide to
No, I had to get the body
get some
parts.
bloody body parts.
Oh Lord.
Let's talk about Ruck.
Yeah, so a little while in, we encounter Ruck, who seems to be a dwarf completely out of his sorts. After talking to Ogren a little bit, we discover that apparently the dwarves who get stuck in the deep roads or can't get out often have to resort to eating the darkspawn, in which our characters chime in and go, "That'll kill you. That's poisonous," even though we've consumed it. And then and they say, so if you survive the process of eating it, it does kind of wear away at your brain and other things.
Yeah, when we first hear about Ruck, it's actually from his mother, Filda.
Right, correct.
She's the one who asked us to look for him.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Ruck.
Yeah, when you confront it, so you fight some, I think either darkspawn or spiders. Spiders. You fight a bunch of spiders. He yells at you and tells you to leave him alone. And then if you follow him, you can talk to him if you are convincing enough. And I persuaded him that we weren't there to steal any of his shinies.
Mm-hmm.
That we were here to just kind of find out what's going on. And you can tell him about his mom. And when you do, he remembers and then goes, "No, absolutely do not tell her I'm alive."
Yeah, because he committed a murder.
He killed someone and ran, and like also he's not who he was, and he knows he's not, and he just can't stomach to see her again, and like asks you to not tell her, and you at least I did. I offered, and I'm curious what you did. I offered to say, "Would you like me to tell her you're dead instead?" So she
I did that too, because like it's his decision.
Right. And Wynn actually liked that choice because it seems not I mean, it's compassionate. But
it is compassionate because you're respecting his wishes and you're like letting him live the life that he's choosing to live. Because if you bring him back to Orzammar, that's not going to do him any good. They're just going to want to kill him because he's tainted.
Right. And he seems to be surviving.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I agree to do that. He thanks us. Nolan North voices Ruck, by the way, famous voice actor who voices everyone now. But like at the time, I had no idea who. I don't know if I'd played the Uncharted games yet, or maybe I had. But like it's such a different performance. But I heard it in some of the words he said, and I was like, oh hey, that's Drake from the guy. Anyway, so Nathan Drake rather. But yeah, so you can talk to Ruck here, and you can either choose to like say, I mean, and I think no matter what you say here, you can still make whatever choice when you get back to Filda as well. We might as well cover it here just to wrap it up. But what did you end up following through and telling Filda that he was dead?
Yeah, I ain't no liar.
Yeah, I did the same. Well, technically you are a liar to Filda.
I'm not a liar to Ruck, though.
Right. And so I did the same, and Wynn also liked that as well. And she mourns him and then gives you a shield, which I can't use, but you probably can. So,
I mean, I'll see if it's any good for Alistair. He can have that. I don't care for a shield.
Okay. But that was kind of really the major thing in Orthantaig. We fight our way through many spiders. We fight a queen corrupted spider who is the worst. I hate these kind of fights. I hated it.
That was so fucking annoying because you would fight her for a little bit and she'd be like, haha, goodbye. And then you'd have to fight like other more basic spiders. And then she'd come back and be like, haha, I'm back. And then she had like 1 HP and she like darted away. I was like, how? 1 HP. You should be forced to stay.
Yeah. It's just an annoying trope in a lot of games, especially fantasy games, of like the villain that summons minions, and that whenever it summons minions, it runs away and then comes back. It's annoying. It's tropey. It's been done to death. And so it was not a fun fight. But after we defeat the Queen of Corrupted Spiders, or whatever its name was, we discover Bronca's journal and read up on what has happened and where they've gone. And we are pointed towards the Dead Trenches, which is deeper into the deep roads, which is where the anvil lives. And after this, we get a cutscene seeing the gathering Darkspawn troops, and we get to see the Archdemon in the flesh for the first time, close up. I wanted to take some cool screenshots, and my game crashed 2 more times because every time I tried to take a screenshot of this scene, it crashed. I'm playing on Steam, by the way.
No screenshots for you.
And so I gave up on taking screenshots the rest of my playthrough. So that was crashes 2 and 3. We get to see this cutscene essentially of the troops rallying and the Archdemon leading them, out of the depths. And then we get to encounter an elite force of Dwarven protectors who stay in the
Legion of the Dead.
The Legion of the Dead, who are very cool, who are fighting back the Darkspawn pretty much constantly to keep them from invading Topside.
This dude, Cardall, he's cool as shit. I like him. He says, "Be careful, Warden. Drunks make poor allies." What a mood. Like, bruh, you read my mind. We're on the same page. Can I trade him for you? Because I think you would be more fun. Yeah. I died a lot.
I didn't until one of the fights later on in here. So you get to talk to the head of this elite group here, and then you can tell him about why you're there and what your plan is. And he kind of pretty much says, yeah, I'm not so interested in protecting Topside because maybe they should get a taste of what we're preventing from invading them up there by being here constantly, which is fair, honestly.
Are you talking about later when you talk to him?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm talking about now. Now. He's like, yeah, screw the Topsiders. We have to do a job down here. But yeah, so we fight our way through the Dead Trenches. There's a boss fight with a Genlock Forge Master that literally almost wiped my party several times. Like, I couldn't kill him. It took forever, and I barely beat him.
Yeah, that's one of my tough fights, too.
And, like, I didn't really struggle with a lot of the other fights, but this one, for whatever reason, like, he annihilated Ogren pretty quick, and then everyone else fell over.
Yeah, you have to get that guy and just, like, get rid of him.
Yeah.
And, like, the emissaries, you have to get rid of the emissaries as soon as possible as well.
Yeah. Also, like, I can disarm traps, but nobody apparently gave Ogren that message because he just runs forward and sets off traps. And it's
that sounds like a valid character choice, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so every time he ran ahead, I'm like, dude,
Ogren rushes in. What can we say?
Literally, give me a moment.
No moments to be had. All the moments are for Ogren.
Apparently. After killing the Forge Master, my game crashed again. That's crash number 4 on this playthrough. I am very frustrated with this game. Now, we've complained about the stability of BioWare games on PC before. I had a lot of issues with Mass Effect 2 and especially 3, but it's just frustrating that this game has been on Steam and on Origin for as long as it has, and it still crashes so much. I get that they've moved on to work on other things. Nobody's working to continue to patch an old game. But when we live in an internet age where stuff gets patched all the time, it still continues to be frustrating that old games don't get that kind of care. I'm sure and that said, listener, I'm sure there are fan patches. I know that a lot of folks do fan mods for especially Steam games to make them more stable, make them prettier, whatever. But as before, for the most part, I'm trying to play true to the experience of the original playthrough. But
even if that makes me want to throw my computer out the window.
Pretty much. And so it's getting frustrating, but it is what it is. Because I like Dragon Age Origins actually quite a bit. I know a lot of people don't really like this game. They struggle with it a lot. But I'm enjoying this playthrough, but just the constant crashes are very frustrating. The fact that when I want to take a screenshot, the whole game crashes. It's like, and I want to help out our good friend Case Aiken, who makes our awesome show art. Like, I want to be able to get some screenshots for him. So anyway, it's just frustrating. But as we continue through the Dead Trenches towards the Anvil of the Void, things continue to get creepier.
Can I do the thing?
Yes, do the thing, please.
First day they come and catch everyone. Second day they beat us and eat some for meat. Third day the men are all gnawed on again. 4th day we wait and fear for our fate. 5th day they return, and it's another girl's turn. 6th day her screams we hear in our dreams. 7th day she grew, as in her mouth they spew. 8th day we hated, as she is violated. 9th day she grins and devours her kin. Now she does feast, as she's become the beast.
So we find out as we progress through this area that this is Hespeth talking to us, one of the members of Bronca's party, sounding like a lover and Bronca's lover.
Yes.
Which is interesting because although Ogren doesn't really comment on it, so I'm curious about that. Like, he doesn't really say anything.
He comments about it later. He doesn't comment on it here.
But what's interesting about this and where it really becomes survival horror, because Rock was a little creepy, but then once you talk to him, you're like, oh, you're just suffering. You're not.
You're just a silly little guy.
But as you move through this space, the words appear in front of you as if they're happening around you.
Yeah, it's like they're being whispered from the walls.
Right. And so it's just a really interesting, very survival horror-y moment until you get to Hespeth, who's like eyes are white and is very kind of like tuned out.
She's emaciated, way worse than Ruck. She's been forced to eat dwarves and darkspawn, forced to watch like these horrors. Like, it is heavily implied. Like, I take that back. It's not heavily implied. It is outright stated that the Darkspawn take the dwarven women and rape them to turn them into the Broodmother.
Correct, which up until this point I had forgotten. And then also Hespeth tells us after some conversation that Bronca condoned this and actually encouraged it. Bronca, and we find out from Bronca shortly after why, is because she wanted Darkspawn to use for the traps to get to the anvil. And so literally not only allowing it, but encouraged it, which is disgusting.
Yeah. She sacrificed everyone just to get what she wants. And crazy concept. What if we just didn't have stories where women were raped?
Yeah.
What if we could stop using the rape of women as a plot device?
Yeah.
Can we stop doing it? Let's take gender out of it. What if we just stop using rape as a plot device? Can we please do that?
There are other ways to portray the Broodmother and the creepiness or transformation of people into this monster without using that as the baseline.
Yeah. It could be something that happens to dwarves when they're bitten.
Right. It could be more zombification than anything else. It
doesn't have to be. It doesn't. It just doesn't.
I agree. So anyway, after leaving Hespeth here and continuing on, there's more whispering, and then we get to the Broodmother, which was actually a simpler fight than I remember. I didn't have as much trouble with this one. Creepy, very creepy design. This is kind of the height of the survival horror in this moment, because after this, it kind of tones down. Though there are still some creepy moments. But here, like, this is kind of what it was building to. We have a boss fight. We have to kill the tentacles, then kill the Broodmother, fight waves of enemies. Pretty straightforward.
So historically, I never get through this fight in one shot.
Okay.
I always die in this fight. And I dread this fight because of that. I guess we're doing this late enough in the game that I guess I'm high enough level that didn't happen this time. Okay. But I was dreading every damn second. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I hate the Broodmother. She's creepy. I hate like the implication of how many dwarven women had been given over to the Darkspawn. I hate it. It makes me very upset. And it's just not a good sensory experience for me.
Fair enough.
But I managed to get through it in one shot this time. I was like, oh, what a miracle.
Yeah. Once you defeat the Broodmother, Hespeth comes back to whisper some more creepy words at us, and this is where we get the confirmation that like Bronca is behind almost all of this, at least the current incarnation of the Broodmother and the Darkspawn, which is not fun. And then Hespeth just disappears into the walls.
Yep.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again. Poor Hespeth. We progress further, and we're finally at the Anvil of the Void. And we see Bronca, who's basically like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Oh, Ogren. Disappointment.
Yeah, I get that Ogren probably was not a star husband, but also I feel bad here because it is clear that Bronca is so far gone and Ogren is genuinely upset and like really thought he was coming to save the love of his life, and she's all she cares about is the anvil of the void. And as we fight waves of darkspawn, she tells us in great detail that she needed a way to test the traps. She needed a way through. So she just created darkspawn to control, to get what she wanted, which is awful.
It is. Bronca's a bitch.
She's terrible. She's a terrible person.
She's not a good person. And then she just says, like, well, if you want what you want from me, then you have to go through the gauntlet of traps that have killed every single person that I've put through them.
Yep. And so we fight waves of darkspawn. We eventually get to a boss fight with a multi-faced anvil.
I hate that thing.
I actually enjoyed this fight. In the past, I'd never really understood the mechanic, but the fact that
like barely understand what I'm doing in that fight.
I mean, what it seems like to me, and our listeners can correct me, it seems like you have to destroy the faces by striking the anvils that absorb the spirits. And first they're bleeding like this white, like spiritual energy, then it looks like they're bleeding blood. And until you hit each anvil with each face with the anvil across from it, it doesn't stop. And so I think I enjoyed it this time because I understood the mechanics of it. And also, again, I think because we're such a high level for this area, I didn't struggle with it in ways that I normally would have. At least mechanically, it feels interesting compared to other fights like the spider, which wasn't, and the broodmother, which was also pretty straightforward. At least mechanically, it was something different, which was interesting to me. And the design of it, I think, is actually kind of cool. It looks really neat. But after we finish this fight, we then go on to a room filled with golems. We have made it to the Anvil of the Void, and we get to meet someone I didn't expect us to meet.
Carradine. Did you forget about Carradine?
I did.
Carradine's a golem. Oh, I almost called him a goblin. Carradine's a golem. Yeah.
So Carradine apparently, over time, regretted using the Anvil of the Void. Turns out you can't make golems from nothing. The Anvil of the Void required souls to create living souls to create the golems, and so the king at the time would have Carradine sacrifice dwarves to turn into golems.
Also, it's not enough that they're just turned into golems. Golems must be controlled.
And so their consciousness is removed by a control rod, and they are controlled by that control rod.
Yeah. So, like, no free will. Like, it's not just you're put into a golem body, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise that would be a very interesting, like, end-of-life plan for the elderly, you know?
Yeah, give them new life as a golem where they can still help.
Right. But there's no free will. There's no consciousness. It is entirely like you are now a slave.
Yep. And so Carradine, after a while, was fatigued by this, worn down by it.
Fatigued.
I mean, I would be. And fought back against it. And so the king at the time was like, we're not going to have that. So someone turned him into a golem, let him remain with his free will, but
because they were not skilled enough to build a control rod for him.
And so he lived in this kind of purgatory with these golems. And because of this, so only living hands can destroy the Anvil of the Void. A golem cannot destroy it because it's of make from it. And so he could not destroy it himself, and he needed someone to come here to destroy it.
Yeah.
And so after hearing all of this information, you have a choice here. You can either destroy the anvil or kill Carradine and use the anvil for yourself.
Yes. So Bronca comes running in, like,
yes.
After Carradine is like, hey, I need you to destroy this anvil. And she's like, no, we can do so much with it. We can restore the empire. Restore the empire.
And so you're given a choice here to side with Bronca, bring her back as the paragon, and save the anvil, or side with Carradine.
All three of these options.
Yeah.
They are, I'll help you to Carradine if you support a new king.
Yeah.
I need it to bargain with Bronca. Or why should I let your guilt inconvenience me? Golems are objectively bad. They are the souls of dwarves enslaved in rock and steel. I would say fuck you to the assembly and be like, no, this needs to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, I would not care if the assembly stayed like in a stalemate. I'd just be like, well, I guess we're not getting the dwarves.
Yeah.
Because I need to destroy this.
Yeah, but I mean, writing wise, that is a lead into what Carradin's solution is if we destroy the anvil, which I am assuming you opted to destroy the anvil.
Yes.
As did I. And so when you...
But Morgan was pissed about it. She wants to discover the anvil's potential. And then Liliana talks about the hubris of man, because of course she does. And I persuade Morgan to just get over it because, like, oh, would you like to be a golem? Because if I cared about nothing but power, then I can make you a golem.
Well, so I had the same conversation with Zevran, who
of course
like,
you did.
Which he's like, we could use this. It could be helpful. Golems, they're very helpful. And I go, oh yeah, no, you're totally right, Zevran. How about I make you the first golem, and then you'll have no more free will, and we can then go fight the Darkspawn. He's like, no, okay, I see your point. The anvil should be destroyed. Fine. So and so we fight. When we make that choice, Bronca turns on us. We have to fight Bronca, and when we kill Bronca. I lost like 10 approval with Oghren.
10 approval from Oghren. 10 disapproval.
Which makes sense. We just killed his wife. But when you talk...
I so don't care.
when you talk to Carradin again, and I thought this was interesting, when you talk to Carradin again, he thanks you and appreciates your help. And you have some options. I ask what Oghren wants.
I did that too, because his wife did just die.
I feel bad. And so Oghren goes... Do you think you can make her a golem? And he's like, I will not. And he's like, yeah, I figured you'd say that, but I had to ask.
And Oghren's the one to be like, we have the assembly.
Yeah. And so then Carradin offers, while I cannot come with you, I can make you a crown of my specific make that's recognizable for the new future king that you can bring back with you as my blessing. And you go, who would you want as king? And he goes, I don't care. It's your choice, which will be important in a minute. And so he crafts this crown. We get 7 approval with Oghren, so we only lost 3. So not
hate
so bad.
This notion that I, an outsider, have any right to select a new king.
Yeah, it feels a little less awkward for me. This is
I should just hand it to Oghren and be like, "This is yours. You do you handle this."
Yeah, as a dwarf, it feels less alien, and also because I'm trying to help my brother-in-law. Yeah. But I do like this scene because there's this kind of montage of Carradin making the crown, but it's got very ominous music. And I really kind of like this kind of... It's haunting because he's essentially a ghost. And it's just a really kind of cool scene. He crafts the crown, he gives it to you, and then you destroy the anvil. Once the anvil is destroyed, he thanks you, and then pulls a Terminator 2 and yeets himself into the lava.
He just tumbles into the lava.
Like, my job is done. I think Carradin is one of the coolest characters in all of Dragon Age Origins. It's just such a cool moment. But yes, this moment at the end, he's just like, all right, bye.
Goodbye. It's unceremoniously just like, Atrast null tunsha. Fall into lava.
Okay, bye. Is pretty much the gist.
Oh my god.
And so then after that we have the crown, and Oghren's pretty much like, can we go now?
Yeah, valid.
And so we do. We go back straight to the assembly where they're still arguing, because of course they are. And what I didn't remember is here you can choose who's king. Regardless of which quest chain you do, you still get to choose in the end here who you want to support. And so you tell the story of what happened. Oghren backs you up. And at first, the two competing kings are like, well, even if that were true, like, how do we even know? And they confirm the make of the crown. And then they ask, well, what did Carradin want? And you can tell them that Carradin wanted A or B, or you can tell the truth, which is that.
Yeah, I told the truth. I was like, he wants me to pick, motherfucker.
Same. I did the same. And I chose Balin and gave him the crown. And Balin immediately goes, thank you. I will rule with like compassion and sternness, or whatever he said. And then he goes, but first we have to kill Harriman, send him to death. And you can go like, hey, I get it, but maybe we don't kill him, we just imprison him or whatever, but like, don't kill him. He's like, no, I cannot have the dwarves divided. This is the only way to prove that I am a stern and forever king. And then we move on. Like, there's no conversation beyond that. He just thanks me for doing what I did. He says that I will definitely be there to help and support in the war. You will have my troops. You will have my allyship. Who did you end up choosing?
I chose Harriman.
Yeah. I assume it plays out about the same way.
Actually, Harriman gets crowned and he's like, awesome. But like somberly. He's like, cool. And he's like taking his seat and Balin's like, fuck all this. And then Balin and his lackeys get together and they're just like, rah! And they start a fight. And we have to kill Balin.
All right.
So Balin wasn't gonna have it.
Yeah. Sounds
no
about right.
What.
And then after that, we are approached by the head of what was the name of the dwarves in the Deep Roads again? That the elite force. No, the elite force.
Cardal, I think.
Yeah, Cardal, the leader of the underground dwarves who are fighting the Darkspawn, greets us outside and offers his assistance. He said, when it comes time to fight the Darkspawn topside, you will have my aid, but I will not be sticking around. I will come back down here.
You're wrong. You're wrong again.
Well, am I?
At first he's like, great, I'm so glad that this worked out for you. We'll still be underground. And then you can persuade him to come topside.
Oh, I didn't have to persuade him. He just agreed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe because you're a dwarf.
Maybe. But yeah, I didn't have to persuade him. So I'm not wrong.
All right, then.
I'm right. Yeah, I didn't have to convince him. He just said he would aid me. So, and I'm guessing, yes, it's because I'm a dwarf. But yeah, and so that's where we end. I mean, after this, I went to talk to Philda about Ruck, but
yeah, I did that too.
But yeah,
and then I went looking for some more nugs, and I found one more. I think I'm still missing one though.
But yeah, this is where we wrap up. And
I have one more thing to say.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. When you leave Orzammar, Oghren comes with you. And it's just assumed that he's coming with you to fight the Darkspawn. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not invite you.
You're just gonna bring yourself along?
You were not invited to our party.
And yet here he is.
So like, there are some characters where you can be like, I think you should go. And Oghren's one of them.
Oh, really?
I might tell him to go away at some point.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
So just be ready for that. I might be like, you should go. I don't like you.
Okay. The Stephen Blue fanboy in me makes it hard to want to do that. Because I enjoy his performance, even if the character is a shit heel.
I know you said shit heel, but yes. I thought you said Shaquille. I was like, what does Shaquille O'Neal have to do with this?
Nothing. The opposite of a dwarf, actually. Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And so, no, this is where we will conclude. So next time we will be going to get the last of our treaties. We will be going to the Bristolian Forest.
Skipping.
We'll get to that. That's part of the wrap up. So if you want to play along with us, that's where we're headed. Finally going to go see the elves. Maybe I'll get an even better bow there because I'm a ranger. Who knows? But you, Frankie, have some cool stuff to share after our last episode.
Yeah, so our last episode, I talked about how I was going to be presenting a paper at the LGBT conference at Ulster University in Belfast, and it was going to be about the lack of queer representation in Mass Effect 2, and then I gave you a survey link to check out. I got 87 responses to this survey, which is actually really good. And here are some things that I can share with you. In our survey, I asked what your preferred shepherd's gender was, and we had 67% for femshep and 33% for male shep. For preferred morality path, an unsurprising 16% for renegade and 84% for paragon. For members of the LGBT community, we have 43% saying no and 57% saying yes. Now, the question that I cared the most about, did you choose Morinth or Samara? Matt, I'm curious, what did you choose?
In my original playthrough, my femshep original range shepherd, I picked Samara.
Okay. So 91% of people chose Samara and 9% of people chose Morinth. Now, here's a really interesting fact.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people who chose Morinth were Paragon players.
Interesting.
Right? If you were a Paragon player and you chose Morinth, you get in my DMs. I need to talk to you.
Yeah, like, because I was a Paragon player and I chose Tamara. That's really interesting.
Right? Pretty predictable spread for Mass Effect 1 romance. 31% preferred to romance no one.
That's not surprising to me, considering previous guest of this show, Ken Shepard. That's essentially how he plays Mass Effect, and only romances Caden in the third game. So, like, I get that.
We got 40% for Liara, 11% for Ashley, and 17% for Caden. And then for Mass Effect 2, Jacob and Kelly got no love.
Aw, not surprising, but still.
I don't have percentages here because I'm bad at math, but the most popular was Garrus, second most popular was Tally, and third most popular option was no one.
Really? Interesting.
Really? People, I'm assuming, choosing to stay faithful to Liara.
Oh, yeah, that probably sounds right.
And then in Mass Effect 3, the only person to get absolutely no romancers, which makes me really sad, is Diana Allers. Cortez got 1, and Trainer got 4.
I mean, that's not that surprising either, but yeah.
Right. My theory, and the reason why I included this question, was that even though they included, like, specific gay and lesbian characters in Mass Effect 3, we have already spent time with these other characters and have become entrenched in their stories and their narratives. Right. So it's hard to break away from any previous established romance to start a new romance with someone that you're just meeting.
Right.
So that was my theory, and I wanted to see if the data supported it. And I feel comfortable saying that the data does, because Garrus is still the most popular, Liara is the second most popular, and Tally is the third most popular.
Right.
So Liara and Tally are really, like, close in numbers. It was 24 for Garrus, 15 for Liara, and 13 for Tally. So really interesting. Like, to me, I think this is interesting as hell. So sure. I'm sorry if listeners, you're like, yeah, okay. But it was interesting to me. So thank you. Thank you for participating in my survey. If you did, you helped academia make steps forward towards recognizing good and bad representation.
Yeah. And also, like, a good example of, like, us revisiting Mass Effect from time to time throughout the rest of the series. We are never done with Mass Effect. There will eventually be another game, in theory, God willing, that'll be decent. So we will come back to that. But yeah, so thank you for sharing those results, Frankie. I'm sure I'm the only person who voted for Thane in any capacity, but I will still fight for my love.
Do you want the numbers on Thane?
I'm curious.
I'll give you the numbers on Thane. You didn't ask, so I didn't say. I think Thane was kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, I assume.
Thane had 9 romancers in Mass Effect 2. Mm-hmm. And 2 people chose to stay faithful to Thane in Mass Effect 3. Hi. Yeah.
I would do it more if I could do it as male Shep, which is the way I would rather do it. But anyway, still we'll fight for that battle till the day I die, that Thane should be a bisexual, pansexual character and not
He was supposed to be. Okay.
I know. We're not going to get into this again. I'm
not going to recite my paper.
No, him and Jack got the short end of the stick, and we know.
And Tally and Jacob.
Tally and Jacob. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. If you want to hear us talk about other Mass Effect stuff, or you have questions or whatever, please feel free to send them in. We are always thinking about those games and constantly reliving them as we endlessly replay them. But as I said earlier, we're moving on to the elves. So they are the last treaty we need. So please play that for the next episode. But otherwise, that's a wrap on this week.
Yeah. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at FrankieBWrites and at DJ_Stormageddon. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. And you can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website to join in the conversation. The Discord gets more and more active in every week that passes. We have new folks joining. We have cool conversations about video games, comic books, TV, movies, and more. Also, links to all of that stuff is in the show notes as well. Rate us on Spotify, rate and review us on Apple Pods, and join the Discord. Links for all of that in the show notes because I figure it's easier for those listening.
We have some personal plugs. For me, I've moved. I'm no longer living on campus and have my very own home in town. So the first month's rent and deposit really cleaned me out. I literally only have enough money to eat ramen for the rest of the month. So if you'd like what I contribute to this show, please kick me a few bucks on Venmo at FrankieBrad is hella rad, or you can check out my Amazon wishlist at bit.ly/FrankieMoved.
As for me, you know the podcast that I do. You can go to djstormageddon.com for all of that info. Fun and Games has a Patreon if you want to support that show as well. Also, this Saturday, as of when you're listening, when this episode released, if you are listening to it on time, I am planning to stream some Street Fighter 6. I am very lucky to have gotten a review code for Street Fighter 6 from Capcom. Thank you, Capcom. And so as a result, whether I write an article or do podcasts about it as well, I thought it'd be fun to stream a little fighting game action since I haven't done it in a while. And some friends have agreed to probably come on and kick my ass for a little while. So it should be a good time all around. Tune into that. That's twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. I'll probably be tweeting about it too. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can check it out there. We'd also like to thank Carter's husband, the one and only Case Aiken, daddy to a brand new child. Dad to a brand new child sounds better.
I was gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry, he's what now?
We have some amazing t-shirt designs both on the Certain POV Teespring as well as you can get stuff on our very own Redbubble. But I want to special shout out to Case for not only designing those shirts that we have on certainpov.com's Teespring, but also designing each episode specific show art. We haven't shouted that out that much over the course of the show, but it is a thing that he's done for us since the beginning, and we are grateful for that.
Thank you to Reddick Wade and Echoes of Oblivion for our theme music.
Thank you to Red Spinks for our brand new logo. Like I mentioned before, you can get that incredible new logo on anything you want just about over at our Redbubble store. Also, to see more of Red's work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
Honestly, if you don't have our new logo on a t-shirt, what are you doing?
Are you even a fan?
Who are you?
All right, enough of that. Just say the thing.
Atrast tunsha, listeners, I'm Frankie.
And I am Maddie K. Stormageddon. Remember, Grey Wardens.
In war, victory.
In peace, vigilance.
In death, sacrifice.
Okay, bye! Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.